Hello. All right, man. So I haven't done a prog video in a while, and I'll admit it, man. I'm a fucking prog hippie fucking drone, dude. I'm a magical elf flying on a teapot, close to the edge, down by the river, man. Fucking, it's 1 o'clock and it's time for lunch. Bum-de bum-de bum. I love progressive rock music. Honestly, man, I think I like 70s prog music as much as I like metal, dude. I mean, I like metal overall more, but something about fucking, Genesis, Gentle Giant, Nectar, fucking Renaissance. I just love all that fucking shit, man. So I watch a lot of these old men duking it out. I like fucking Sea of Tranquility. I mean, well, I don't even have to say anymore after that. I mean, that motherfucker. But basically, man, so I've been keeping up with this guy, Andy Edwards. I think his channel is fucking hilarious, man. Like, you can tell, I mean, this guy is the master of fucking, he talks shit in an intelligent way. He's got this very dry British sense of humor, and to top it all off, man, he knows his fucking shit, dude. He played drums with fucking Robert Plant, dude. He played with IQ, which honestly, man, I don't know much about IQ except for the fucking I like The Wake a lot, but I like that is it Subterranea or whatever, the one from '97 or whatever. I like that. Haven't heard a lot of their shit. I know he's in some other band, but I've been following the fucking beef. Because there's a little bit of, you guys may not know this, man, there's a little bit of beef going on in the prog. This is too stupid to talk about, but yeah, there's a little bit of beef going on in the prog corner of YouTube, man, between Andy Edwards and the channel called The Prog Corner, And, that's a little presumptuous of this guy, The Prog Corner, to call his channel The Prog Corner, when The Prog Corner is actually, it's not just one guy, it's several people working in conjunction to make a bunch of shit that only people who are like 25 to 30 to 40 years older than me watch, and I'm a younger dude, but I love this shit, man. I love it. Hell, man, I saw fucking Focus. I got to meet I can't say his name, like Thies Vandelier or whatever from Focus. I got to meet the guys from Wishbone Ash recently, man, so that was cool. I love this shit, man. Curved Air, love it, fucking love it, man. Argentina prog, man, Italian prog, PFM. I love all that shit, man. But so basically, I was following this shit, man, because like Andy Edwards, man, he's been doing a lot of fucking like 10 most overrated, 10 most shitty, blah blah blah. So he said that Neil Peart was an overrated drummer, and yes, I listen, man, I'm from fucking North Georgia, man. I say Neil Peart. I've said Neil Peart since I was like 12 or 13. Whenever I first heard of Rush, Well, really, I guess I knew Rush from the fucking radio when I was like 7 or some shit. But at that point I didn't know shit about shit, except for like AC/DC and the Beatles and shit, and Kiss, of course. But everyone's, a lot of these prog nerds on the internet, they're like, they stress the Peart part. Neil Peart. I get that if you're fucking Canadian, but to me, dude, I grew up saying Neil Peart, and listen, man, it's like fucking, those douchebags who say mozzarella, when like every fucking normal person says mozzarella. That's how I see the Neil Peart versus Neil Peart thing. I just say Peart, man, because that, it's like the fucking shampoo, So anyway, man, love Rush, saw them 4 times, man, which is a lot for someone my age, I think, man. I mean, fuck. And, my parents did not really care for Rush, so I, my dad actually likes the first album, I'll say that. My dad's not a prog guy, But anyway, so I was following the beef between like Andy Edwards, this guy reacting to the prog corner, and like they've been doing fucking reaction videos back and forth, man. And so I was gonna share my thoughts, man, because like this all got started because like Andy Edwards said that Neil Peart was overrated, and I know fucking if fucking Andy sees the I doubt he does, man. He'll say I'm a fair weather prog fan or some shit, This guy, he reminds me of fucking like someone from fucking Blackadder, dude, which most of you don't know that show. It's a great fucking old school British sitcom, man. Andy Edwards, man, he kind of reminds me of Percy. A little bit of Percy from Blackadder 2 and 3, specifically. There's 4 of them, 4 seasons. We say seasons here in America. Those British people, they call them series. It doesn't matter. I'm a big Blackadder fan. But anyway, man. So like. This shit is hilarious. Like I know most people watch my channel are probably not into prog, dude, but I think this beef is like some funny internet drama, man. Like fucking, it's not real drama, I think. Like I can't tell, dude. Like people in the comments are taking it seriously. And the prog corner, he's cool. He's a cool guy. I think his name's like Scott Lady or something like that. I first saw him on Pete Pardo's show. They were talking about like fucking Kansas or some shit, and then because if you tune in to Sea of Tranquility, he's probably talking about fucking Kansas or Whitesnake or something like that, And so basically, like Andy Edwards said that Neil Peart is overrated, and then the prog corner fucking reacted, dude. He had a whole goddamn panel of people, like there was like 5 or 6 dudes, and they were like, Neil Peart's not overrated. And then Andy Edwards reacted to that shit. He's like, actually he is, mate. Or some shit like that. I don't know. And so I was going to, weigh in with my thoughts, man. First of all, dude, when it comes to the overrated, underrated thing, to me, those are internet music nerd words that like, if you use those words in real life, you're probably a bit of a fucking nerdy cocksucker. Like no offense, because I've used those words myself, man. So we're all nerdy cocksuckers here, man. But what do they really mean? Here's the thing, dude. Okay, when people say underrated, they usually just mean someone I like who isn't as famous as I would like them to be, But when it comes to overrated, sorry, I'm drinking fucking Bud Ice 5.5%, man. These fucking one of the worst beers of all time, but I love it. I fucking love it. But anyway, so like an overrated usually means someone really popular and influential and fucking someone beloved that I personally don't like, And to me, like, okay, so like when it comes to those words, like overrated does not apply to, okay, like I'm not the biggest fan of The Clash, like I actually love some of their music, but like overall, not the biggest fan of The Clash. I think that London Calling is like a kind of an uneven album. It's got some great songs on it. I like the first Clash album a lot, but that's, like I could say that they're overrated, but they're really not. Like when you look at how important they were in the grand scheme of not just rock music, but like, music in general in the modern era, from their time to now, I would say they're actually not overrated, And then when it comes to underrated, people like, you get on the internet and say underrated and people will say Thin Lizzy. I'm like, no. Like, here's the thing. Everyone who hears Thin Lizzy likes them. You know, they're cited as an influence by a million fucking bands, you know, so they're not underrated. They're just not, dude. I mean, like, it's stupid, dude. It's fucking stupid the way people talk. Because it's like, you know, internet nerds, internet music nerds specifically, they latch on to these fucking words and just spit it out. Like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, hell, man, I saw some dip shit on Facebook the other day saying that Black Flag was underrated. I'm like, dude, they're selling shirts at fucking Hot Topic, man. Like, that's not underrated at all, dude. They're rated. They're just rated, you know. And you know, if you don't like them, you know, they're not overrated. If you like them, they're not underrated. Like, they're there, you know. So to me, those are stupid words. But you know, specifically when it comes to Neil Peart, I'll stress that Peart. You know, and you know, the PROG fans will get the soil reference, you know, from fucking Supper's Ready. But anyway, I don't think he's over or underrated, man. Maybe underrated by like punk rockers, you know, fucking Steve Albini. You know, he would be like if Steve Albini heard Hemispheres, he would be like, well, he's kind of playing a lot of notes. You know, yeah, that's the point, dipshit. You know, that's why you're playing one note, you know. Just fucking noise and shit in your fucking shitty amplifier. Which, hey, don't get me wrong, I like Big Black. I haven't heard a lot of shellac shit, but you know, they seem pretty cool. But anyway, like when it comes to Neil Peart, like the thing is, he's in a weird spot because like a lot of like Rush diehards say that he's the greatest drummer ever, and like that's just simply like technically and objectively not true, you know. And I love Rush, man. I here's an actual underrated album, Hold Your Fire. In my opinion, I think, you know, a lot of people hate Power Windows and Hold Your Fire. I think those are great records, but so like, you know, that's an actual example where you have something that is heavily criticized and maligned, and you can make an argument that it's actually high quality, you know. And when it comes to overrated, you know, think about like movies like The Social Network, 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire. Those are movies that were, you know, critically acclaimed but quickly forgotten. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's merits to the words, but I mean, you're still kind of an internet douchebag if you're throwing them around all the time, you know? Because you just sound stupid. Like when some dipshit is like, oh, you know, Stanley Kubrick is overrated. You sound stupid. You just sound fucking stupid. Like there's so much evidence to the contrary. You know, you can say, oh, I don't like it. I don't like Stanley Kubrick, which, you know, I do. I'm talking, you know, this hypothetical douchebag, you know. But anyways, when it comes to Neil Peart, man, like fucking, I feel like that guy, his influence is so far and wide that you can't really call him overrated, because it's like you can hear bits of Rush in so many. See, Rush is one of the few prog rock bands to actually transcend the prog rock genre. You know, like, yeah, there are bands out there who were influenced by Nectar. There are bands out there who were influenced by Leorme. Bands out there influenced by fucking Sui Generis and fucking, you know, a lot of great bands out there. But, you know, when you take a look at modern music as a whole, you know, Rush were one of those bands that were able to actually transcend like the prog rock pigeonhole of sorts, you know. And I mean, you can see that in the goddamn documentary they did like 15 years ago, where they got the fucking, you know, Smashing Pumpkins, Nine Inch Nails, Pantera, Dream Theater, like a wide ranging spectrum of influence there, you know. So it's very hard to say someone like that is overrated, but at the same time, I kind of get where Andy Edwards is coming from, man, because like people who were like, oh, there's no better drummer. Like, that's stupid, dude. Like, I kind of agree with Andy to an extent because, like, okay, Andy is like a jazz fusion nerd or a jazz nerd in general, man. He actually had a great series of videos where he's saying that, like, I don't know, he pissed off a bunch of people into jazz by saying that jazz belongs to white people and black people, you know. And, you know, hey, you know, you look at a lot of jazz, I mean, you know, wasn't Bill Evans a fucking white guy? I mean, like, you know, a lot of white people played on Miles's records, you know, and so on and so on. So, you know, he had a point, man. But people got bent out of shape about that. So I admire Andy's, like, trolling capabilities and shit like that, man. But for me, like, Neil is just, you know, you look at his influence on, like, metal and heavy metal and shit. I mean, like, you know, he's fucking killer, dude. He's got a wide-ranging influence and shit. But you talk to some of these Rush diehards, man, and they're like, oh, well, you know, he's the best. He's the best. And it's like, well, you know, the thing is, dude, there's a lot of people who could play Neil's parts, you know. That's why, like, every major city in America has a Rush cover band, dude, because you can learn those parts and you can get it down. You know, you could argue that it's actually harder to play some shit like The Who or even, you know, Led Zeppelin, the Stones, like the shit where you can't just, you know, read a book and learn it. Like, it's all more about the feel. But that ties into the jazz fusion thing I was talking about, where Andy's whole thing is like, you know, Neil's overrated because you have a bunch of jazz and session drummers, you know, like the guys who play on a Steely Dan record who are technically better than Neil. But the thing is, man, like, if you get down to it, like, look, I love Steve Gadd. I love Lenny White. You know, I love all these, you know, different people out there, man. But is their influence as far-reaching as a guy like Neil Peart? No, you know. It's like trying to say that Eddie Van Halen is overrated because, like, Alan Holdsworth or Pat Metheny or Larry Boyle are more technically capable, you know what I mean? And it's kind of hard to... That's what's weird about this whole cross-section between, like, rock, jazz, prog, metal. You know, like, there's a lot of, you know, like, a lot of these types of arguments, man. And it's like, dude, you're wasting your fucking time. You're wasting your fucking time. Like, Neil's a beast, dude. Or he was. I mean, obviously he's dead. But, you know, I kind of see the PROG Corner's point as well, because that guy was saying that, like, you know, Buddy Rich would probably not work on a Rush record. And Andy Edwards was like, oh, Buddy Rich would be great on a Rush record. And that's kind of silly to assume that, like, a jazzy, floaty, you know, got my sticks in my hand and my limp wrist type shit, you know, like, that doesn't always work for the type of music that, like, Rush was playing, you know. So yeah, you can have jazz / session guys who can competently play that shit, but, like, they would not have made the same decisions as Neil, because Neil was specifically informed as far as his drumming. Like, I would say by Neil's style comes from, like, a very specific pocket of, like, 1966 to 1973 type drumming. You know, Barrymore Barlow from Jethro Tull, Bill Bruford. He's got a little bit of Bruford, although Bruford is more of a jazz guy, according to, you know, him. But, you know, Neil incorporates the rock parts, you know, so... And then you also have a guy like Ginger Baker, huge influence on Neil Peart. But, you know, Ginger would be like, I'm a jazz drummer, mate. you know. Just like I'm sure Andy Edwards probably say the fucking same thing, you know. But it gets complicated, you know, when you break it down. And it's like, to me, it's like saying Neil Peart's overrated. It's kind of like saying that like Johnny Ramone is overrated. So it's like he's really not, because if you look at the amount of people who were influenced by Johnny Ramone, you know, yeah, it's very hard to say that. Okay, like if you're into movies or something, it's like you could watch the 1922 Nosferatu and be like, oh, well, I've seen, Dario Argento was more cinematically whatever, you know, he did more shit with the, you know. Plus, that's a PROG movie too, man. Fucking Goblin, the Goblin soundtrack. But anyway, man, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid, man. So, honestly, man, after watching the Andy Edwards reaction to the PROG Corner's reaction to Andy Edwards' reaction to the PROG Corner's reaction to Andy Edwards, like, this might surprise y'all, but like, okay, like, I'm actually not a virgin. But like, after watching that shit, dude, sitting there, you know, like hours of my life, like I came out of that video and I was like, you know, like you hear about having your virginity taken. I had my virginity given back to me, you know, after watching that shit, dude. Like I'd never heard of like PROG beef outside of like, you know, the occasional like John Anderson, Chris Squire back and forth or something. So it's I have to recommend to everybody, man. This is good YouTube content. Not this video. This video sucks. But I would definitely check out the PROG Corner and Andy Edwards. And yeah, Neil Peart's not overrated. He's just not, you know. I mean, like, when you've influenced that many people, you just can't be overrated. That's like saying the goddamn, you know, like, Charles Dickens is overrated. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. You know, you sound stupid. You fucking sound stupid, you know. But, you know, Andy Edwards finds a way to make his shit sound smart. But his whole thing is that, like, the fact that there are jazz drummers in existence means that Neil Peart is overrated, because it's like, okay, you got Vinnie Colaiuta, you got Steve Gadd, you know, shit like that. So it's interesting stuff, man. So I was wanting to get y'all's thoughts on that. I'm kind of just rambling, just kind of ranting and raving. I'm gonna take another sip of beer here. But yeah, I say that Neil Peart's not overrated. You know, hell, man. Look, it's all subjective. Think about, or relative too. Think about this. If you were hanging out with a bunch of like indie rock and punk rock people, and that's all you know, then in that circle, Neil Peart would actually be underrated, because those people would be talking about like, who's the drummer for Sonic Youth? I forgot his name, you know. But they'd be talking about like George Hurley from the Minutemen. They'd be talking about that the black guy from the Dead Kennedys, you know, shit like that. So, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let us know in the comments, and have a great day.